Writing prompt. Your job description. 1. Sit in an empty room with a red button for 8 hours a day. 2. Never press the red button, no matter what happens. 3. Do not talk to anyone about the job. After many uneventful years, your phone rings and a stern, slightly panicked voice says, "Press the button, now!" The phone on my desk rang. Naturally, I answered. "Hello?"
"Press the button!"
snapped a stern voice. I glanced down at the red button built into the top of my desk. "May I ask who is calling?" I inquired. Not that it mattered. It could be the President of the United States. I still wasn't pressing that button. My job description was pretty clear after all. 1. You'll be assigned an empty room with a desk and a chair. In the middle of the desk there will be a large red button. 2. No matter what happens, never press the red button. And 3. Do not talk to anyone about your job. And I was well paid to do my job. To do essentially nothing. Electronic devices weren't allowed past security, but anything else I wanted to bring in to pass the time while I worked was fine. Books, magazines, model kits, whatever I liked. I'd been there just over 7 years, and they'd never tested me on it before. I'd never give them reason to doubt me, but today was the day, I supposed.
"There's no time. I'm with the agency. You have to press the button."
The agency? I'd always wondered if this was some kind of secret CIA experiment. Weird that they just come right out and say it after all this time, though. Of course, that didn't matter either. If they had wanted me to press the button, they should have told me that there was some circumstance under which I might have to. Nowhere in Rule 2 did the word "unless" appear.
"Now!"
the voice shouted, in mixed anger and desperation. It occurred to me that if I talked to whomever was testing me long enough, they might trick me into breaking Rule 3 somehow. So I simply hung up. A few minutes later, 2 men in suits entered the room. One of them was my boss. Without a word, he handed me a piece of paper. It was a termination notice. I was appalled at first, until I noticed the line about severance. The termination was more like a promotion. I'd get to go from doing essentially nothing to literally doing nothing at all, and I'd still get paid. It was hard to complain about. But still, since I was fired anyway, I had to know. "What does it do?" I asked.
"I can't give you all the details, but it opens a door,"
my boss said. So, I was just making sure a door didn't open.
"More like
He said, pausing to think.
you were actively not opening it. That's all I can say."
I nodded. I had no idea what that meant, or I guess I never really expected a straight answer. I picked up my coat and stood up from my chair. The guy with my boss took my place by the button. "One thing I don't get," I said, as he began escorting me out. "Why let me go now? I never talked about my job, and I for damn sure never pressed that button."
"No,"
my boss agreed.
"but your ability to continue doing your job has been compromised. It happens sometimes, nothing to be ashamed of. In any case, your problem wasn't Rule 2, or Rule 3. Rule 1, Mr. Stanley."
I furrowed my brow. "But that's just a description of the room, isn't it?" He nodded as we approached security.
"You will be assigned an empty room with a desk and a chair. In the middle of the desk, there will be a large red button,"
he quoted. "I don't get it," I admitted.
"An empty room, Mr. Stanley, but for the objects listed."
I was still confused as we reached security, and I handed over my employee badge to the guard. My former boss walked me past the checkpoint to the exit door. "I still don't understand," I admitted, as my ex-employer shook my hand.
"A desk, a chair, and a button."
I blinked. When he spoke again, his words sent a chill down my spine.
"The room you worked in does not now, nor has it ever, contained a telephone.